Hello, hello. So my name is Robbie, and I've been living car-free for the past 2 years. And for the last year of those, I've actually been in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I spent the first 26 years of my life in Tampa, Florida, and I'll always love Tampa, but I definitely knew I didn't want to stay there forever. So in May of 2021, I packed up everything I owned and started traveling for work. I lived in 3 different states, 3 different time zones, and I got to see a bunch of national parks along the way. But my favorite state that I lived in was definitely California. There's just something about the diversity of the climate and nature that I was drawn to, and I decided to settle down here. But being 3,000 miles away from your core group of friends and family, you start to feel a little bit lonely. So I found out about a trail maintenance volunteer group that does work around the greater Bay Area and decided to give it a try. I just had to figure out how to get from Oakland, where I live, to the San Francisco Ferry Building, and then from there to Vallejo, and then from there to Lynch Canyon Open Space, where the work would be done. Only about a 8-mile bike ride, so not too bad. But I don't own any camping gear, and I've never camped before. So after a few trips to REI, I gathered enough supplies and decided to give it a test in my apartment so I didn't look like a complete idiot out there trying to put a tent up for the first time. And I gotta say, it went really smoothly. I'm not sure if it's just the half dome tent, but this was a no-brainer to put up. So I put those saxophone lungs to the test and blew up my air pad. And before too long, I had a nice little base camp set up. All right, so it's my first time in a tent. First time pitching a tent. Not too bad, it's pretty fun. It took about 10 minutes. It feels nice and cozy with the light on in here. Backpack fits nicely in the corner. Utensils on the side. Feels pretty nice. I'm definitely glad I got the 2-person tent. That way all your stuff can fit in here. I've never slept in a sleeping bag before, so let's see how it goes. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just use the pillow inside of the case, because it's pretty flat without the case. So yeah, it feels pretty cozy. I actually like firm mattresses, so this mattress pad feels great. And it is very warm in the sleeping bag. Honestly, I could see myself probably zipping it down. I'm a pretty warm sleeper. The pillow stays in its place, which is really cool. It's nice. All right, well, time to leave my nice wild oasis. I was using a bike stand as a tripod because I don't have a tripod right now. So now I just had to deconstruct everything and pack it all down so that I could fit it all into my backpack. I was a little worried at first that I wouldn't be able to get everything down as compact as it came, but it was pretty straightforward. The sleeping bag is still one of the hardest things to put away. You really got to stuff it in there. But I just had to fit all of this and my coffee maker. Okay, maybe not the coffee maker. They said they'd have coffee there. Into this, along with all my clothes and way too many pairs of underwear, but you never know. And this backpack is surprisingly capable. It actually kind of reminded me of the tent in Harry Potter that's way bigger on the inside than it is from the outside, because it just kept going and going. And eventually I got everything crammed in there one way or another. Threw my box cutter in for good measure and gave it a test. And I gotta say, the weight distribution was perfect. It really didn't feel like I had much on my back at all, and I'm guessing it probably weighed around 40 pounds. So I gave it a little test on my bike to see how that felt, and I think we're in good shape.
The only thing was that my helmet rubbed a little bit on the bag. So I just lowered my seat a little bit and problem solved.
So I went to Best Buy yesterday to get a power bank. I don't know if there will be chargers or not, but recently there's been some major storms that hit the Bay Area and California in general. And so a ton of people in my area lost their power. So I go to Best Buy to pick up a power brick. There was literally only one left. It's this little old lady that wanted to get it, and I just didn't have the heart to not let her have it. So I just let her have it and figured I'd order one on Amazon. So I last minute overnighted this power bank from Amazon, which is great, but it didn't get here until the morning, of course. And so I know these things typically take forever to charge. So hopefully we get up to at least 3 blinking dots there before I leave, before maybe about 4. So almost 2 hours.
So I decided to put some lube on my bike chain while I waited, and everything worked out perfect. The battery was charged fully by the time I left, and I had nothing to worry about. At least that's what I wish I could tell you.
I realized as I was packing up cables, the power bank that I got from Amazon only has USB-A output, and I basically have nothing that uses USB-A anymore because everything's moved on to C these days. So I have a Best Buy about 5 minutes from my house, and I figured I would just ride over real quick and buy a USB-A to USB-C cable. And while I'm in that section, I find a bunch of these guys, which is what I was looking for yesterday. So that whole story about the old lady at Best Buy actually means nothing. I'm not sure what she bought. Hopefully it worked for her. But this whole last minute trying to get a charge before I leave could have been avoided had I just seen this section yesterday while I was there. But what can you do? The new one charges with USB Type-C, but should charge faster. But again, only 2 bars, same as the other one. I'm gonna go ahead and just take the cables with me and hope that I find a charger on the ferry that I can just use temporarily to charge it up. But anyway, man, overnighted and wasted all of that resource for a power bank that I couldn't even use, that I could have just got yesterday. So just when you think your carbon footprint is good because you ride a bike, you end up overnighting a power bank to yourself on Amazon that you didn't even need.
So after my logistical waste of time, I was finally ready to get going. And first few minutes on the bike felt really good. I made it to the Oakland BART station in no time. And about 5 minutes later, my train arrived. And I was on my way down the first leg of the trip. The public transportation is definitely one of the things I love about San Francisco. You really don't even need a car here. And there's really never a dull moment in SF. But eventually I made it to the ferry building, and keeping with the theme of efficiency, the ferry actually arrived about 5 minutes later. Perfect timing. And if you ever find yourself in the Bay Area and you're looking for something to do, definitely recommend taking a ferry ride somewhere. The views that you get along the way are absolutely beautiful. It's times like this that I'm reminded why I chose to live here. And as we got to Vallejo, the water turned really murky, which I guess was from all the rain runoff. I used to drive over that bridge on my first assignment here. Definitely coming back under much different circumstances. And immediately I noticed that the bike infrastructure in Vallejo was not great, to say the least. But right at Florida Street, I did get a bike lane, so that was pretty cool. But it didn't last long. So eventually I was back to the sidewalks, dodging street signs and light posts on some of the best maintained sidewalk in California. Continuing with the lack of bike infrastructure, Home Depot had no bike racks, and I needed to stop for some batteries for my headlamp. So I just decided to take the bike in with me, and only got a few weird looks. But eventually I was back on my way. And luckily this was the part of the ride that got really pretty. But it also got really hilly, and I was on a straight incline for probably about a mile or so. Definitely put my stamina to the test. On inclines like this, I tend to just lock in and focus on my breathing. I'll typically time it to my pedaling. In, out, in, out. But once all my pedaling paid off, I made it to the top, and from there I was pleasantly greeted with a steady downgrade for pretty much the rest of the ride. I really got cruising here. Strava said my top speed was about 48 miles an hour. But even still I got hot, so decided to take my jacket off. And the last 1.6 miles were truly beautiful. Really felt like I was in a Windows screensaver. And after about 2 hours of travel, I finally made it to the work site. And now it was just time to set up camp. Easy as that.
Nice, got it all set up. Bike ride was fun, although I did notice it's mostly downhill, so I already know Sunday, coming out of here after 2 days of work, it's gonna be fun. I just have to eat all my snacks, drink all my water, and that way I'm a little bit lighter. So yeah, first night was pretty successful. Only have one bar on my portable charger, and my phone's at like 68%. Probably won't have a ton of videos coming up, but it's been really fun. I actually slept really great last night. The sleeping pad is really comfortable, stayed nice and warm. Hiking shoes on. Got my bag packed for the day. About to go get some coffee. Let's check out the view. Beautiful.
And after getting some coffee, I helped prepare some of the lunch food. And quickly realized I definitely brought too many snacks. We had a little team meeting. And then head out to the job site, which was about a 2-mile hike from our camp. Then we picked up some tools, hiked a little bit more, and got to work turning this into this with a whole lot of this. It was definitely a lot of work, but a lot of cool people to talk to along the way. Then we had lunch amongst the cows, and one of the cows decided to have lunch on my glove. I guess it looked like grass. One thing I learned is that these guys tend to run things around here. But before too long, we had a nice trail formed, and we headed back to camp. And I got to try out a solar shower for the first time. And gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. The water was actually warm. Then we had dinner. They even had a beer keg. I think you could argue that this is probably glamping. But that night we enjoyed some music, drinks, food, and good company. The next day they had a hot breakfast, nice sausage burrito, and I got lucky enough to get a ride out to the job site on an ATV instead of having to hike it, so that was pretty nice. And today's task was to reroute this trail Today felt like a lot more work than yesterday because we were moving so much grass out of the way, but at least the views were worth it. And just like that, another day of work in the books, and it was time to head home. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that I actually wasn't the only cyclist there, and coincidentally, these two other people actually came from Oakland too. So we got to ride back together, which is great because none of us realized that the ferry service runs a lot more sporadically on the weekends, so we knew we were going to have to wait at the ferry building for about 4 hours once we got there. But at least we didn't have to do it alone. Which also leads me to say, mission accomplished. The whole reason that I went out was to try to make connections and establish roots in this place that I now found myself living in, and I think I definitely did that. I met a lot of really cool people, had a great time, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. So until next time, get out there and see the world, especially on two wheels if you can.